Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to Season 3 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems and the Buzz Conference. Make sure you connect with the Buzz Conference by visiting their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, and by following them on Instagram at the Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events they host, along with getting the latest copy of the Buzz Digital Magazine. The Buzz Conference is a leading voice in our real estate industry. Kits offers a fully loaded cross-channel marketing suite for the real estate industry, including Loop CRM, loaded with tools to help you manage your business, generate more leads and more referrals, and build that mindshare to drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on marketing. And of course, as you know, we are on a push to get to 100 reviews on iTunes, and so I would like to ask you, if you haven't yet, please take 2 minutes to go to iTunes, rate the show, leave a review. It really is that easy. And of course, as always, let me say thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 143. He graduated in kinesiology in 2005 and became a personal trainer. He then became a professional fighter in 2009 through 2017, including making it into the UFC within just 1 year of setting his goal to do so. He says that it's always been more than just transforming the body. The mind and spirit play key factors to one's success. Through many life experiences, as both a professional fighter and a coach, he is honored to be given the opportunity to work with many clients, helping them live happier, more fulfilled lives. He has become extremely fascinated with psychology, and along the way, realized just how important the mind is in the process of accomplishing any real success. Always learning and growing, he loves the saying, if knowledge was all it took, everyone would have six-packs and be millionaires. Knowledge is good to have, but applied knowledge is better. Weighing in at 205 pounds, all the way from Phoenix, Arizona, this week on the show, I am joined by consultant, speaker, and former UFC fighter, Clifford Starks. Cliff, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate the introduction.
Absolutely,
Perfect.
my man. Absolutely, brother. Is that how they used to do it when you walked into the cage, or did I get it? Should they be calling me and maybe getting rid of that white-haired guy? He's getting a little bit old.
You put it well. No, you did a great job.
All right, cool. So I'm going to keep this part of the recording. I'm going to send it off to like Dana White and all those guys and just say, hey, listen.
Yeah. Let them know.
Cliff said so, man. And if you guys don't, I got Cliff. He's in my corner now. So, watch out. No,
Absolutely.
Dude, it's amazing to have you here, man. I'm excited for the combo. And I wanted to jump right into this because, as I was reading through the bio and I was reading through, just looking a lot of things up, one of your favorite sayings, and we just read it off, but I'm going to read it again here. If knowledge was all it took, everyone would have six packs and be millionaires. Knowledge is good to have, but applied knowledge is better. Explain this one to us. Like, why do you like it so much? What does it mean to you? And what's that big takeaway message for everybody?
Yeah. So ultimately, as I've gone through my journey, there's the haves and the have-nots. And you start looking and you see, okay, who has something and who doesn't have something? Because we're all more than capable. And even when people say some people are average, well, they're only average in some things. They're an expert in other things. And so the question is, who is a have-not really? Ask a person, what do they want? What do they want to accomplish? And really ask, why do they want to accomplish that thing? And for instance, we all want basically the same things. Like everyone wants to be in shape. Everyone's looking to be in shape, but they don't know the how behind the process. And ultimately, it all comes down to execution. And not execution on like, you need to execute because you want this more than anybody else. There's 1,000,001 different ways to execute this thing. And I'm just here to open up and remind people they're more than capable of living the reality that they want.
I love that, man. You know what? I agree with you so much, right? Like we talk about this all the time. And I mean, the way you put it, haves, nots. It's that thing of that difference. Like I call it like most people. We don't want to be most people, because most people will think about it, dream about it, talk about it, never act on it. Right.
Wow.
That's why, like, a long time ago, I stopped talking about the 6-pack because, the only 6-pack I got is like Heineken. And quite frankly, but it's one of those things, right? Like, because and we'll talk about setting goals, but it's one of those things like, you think I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to work out, I'm going to get that 6-pack. And then, a few days later, you still don't have it. So you kind of go, I'm going to give up on this because it's not happening at the pace I want it. But it doesn't work like that, does it? It takes dedication.
The pace I want it, that's so key. And what's so beautiful about coaching is like, look, I know people are trying. That's not the issue. People try at things. Yep. They really, really try. It's just they can't see through the process. And if you can't see through the process, that trying feels like a nightmare. Yeah. Like, it's just like, oh my God, this sucks.
Yeah, for real, man. So talking about that then, because as we sort of backtrack a little bit here and say, once a fighter, now a consultant, then a speaker. The reality is, as we just mentioned as well, you went to school for kinesiology. I mean, when we talk about goals, was there a goal to be a doctor? Why kinesiology?
Yeah, so I really wanted to be a personal trainer. The reason I wanted to do that was I was that fat kid. I was the guy who was overweight and ended up getting in shape. And I didn't have the genetic components that some people do. When I eat, I put weight on, and I put it on very, very eily.
Hey, if you got a secret for that, like how to drug, I'm that guy. I hate when people are like, man, I can't put on weight. I'm like, yeah, that's a problem.
I do. Like, so I go with a couple basic things. It's really about habit creation. Yeah. And habit creation is knowing we don't necessarily want to screw up. Like, we're not waking up in the morning saying like, man, I really want to screw up bad today. I want to mess everything up. And so what I will say is know what you're consuming and know what you're creating, right? Always know what you're consuming and know what you're creating. So what do you have in your house? If you have a bunch of junk in your house, you're going to be in a bad place. Sorry, phone just came on. Just hang that up.
Hey, you're a popular guy. These things.
Yeah. So if you have a bunch of junk around you, you can't win that battle. Like, you might win it in the beginning of the day, and then near the end, it gets hard. And the reason it's so hard, do you know David Goggins by chance? That guy's one of the baddest people on the planet. And it was a process that he went through. Like, he took himself through a process, and he was that so-called loser and these are words coming from him, figuring it out and being like, I'm done with this shit. I'm done with it. But he went through a different process. He slingshotted himself the other direction. And the power of a person is saying like, okay, well, who are you now? And who do you want to identify as? And the second you want to identify as something different, it's like, okay, this person that I'm identifying as, do they keep all this junk around their house? Do they consume all of these things? Do they consume Netflix? And if the answer is no, then it's time to make that shift and that change. And just like anything, it's hard until it's easy. It's easy for David Goggins to do what he does. And I'm not saying it's easy, of course, but for him, it's in his head. Doing hard stuff is easy for him. Me doing hard things is easy for me now.
You know what, man? And I get that so completely, because you got to truly live it, right? Because if you're not living at the end of the day, when the lights turn off or the doors close or the phone gets hung up, you're the person that you really are. You're not the person you're pretending to be. Yeah. And, this comes back to how people promote themselves on social media, how people promote their brands, how people, live and the things they do. And you got to truly get into it, live it. And what you just said about that, it's hard until it's easy, but then it does become easy, because as you brought up the thing about habit, and we've talked about this many times on this show, and I do this a lot with my clients, but you got the trigger, the action, and the reward, right? And where you say, if you're trying to lose the weight, well, there's a trigger there that says you do like to eat. That's why you probably got to the place you're at. You've got food there. Well, there's going to be hunger at some point. And if that's there, you're going to take action. You're going to end up eating. And then you did not break the habit. Or much the same, you did cut it all out and you broke it. Right. And once we start getting through that process, I mean, I talk about this with time management with people. I talk about this with a lot of things that people do. And yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Once you start to go, it's like, whoa, I just hit that next level of my life. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, from kinesiology, I guess naturally, but I'll still ask it, where did the fighting part come from?
Yeah, so this was really interesting.
Like, did you get pissed off? Like things weren't working, you started hitting? Like, what happened?
I'm actually a really, really kind guy. You know, I'm a kind guy. I'm a loving guy. And it's interesting because sometimes people think of fighting and they think like, oh man, brutal and violent. And I never really felt fighting was brutal and violent. This is why. It's two individuals going to sign a contract.
Mindset shift.
Well, it's like, it's an agreement, right? We have agreement. We got rules. We have all of these things. And is there brutalness to it? Absolutely. Is there assertiveness to it? Absolutely. It is a tough, tough sport, but I love competing. I love competing. And the beauty of professional fighter is you're in a primal state. You're a fighter, but in a professional state too. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't just be primal because you will get rocked by a great fighter, by a high level fighter. But if you can be a professional and deal with the primal at the same time, it's a beautiful combination. And that's what life is. And like in life, you're going to go primal, and it's who are you going to show up as?
You know, it's interesting, man, because again, primal, you could go off and it could just be, you know, full bore. But if there's no structure and there's no professionalism to it, it ends up probably being a lot of chaos. And for somebody who is studying the craft and somebody who is paying attention, they're going to be able to read that and find your weaknesses immediately. I mean, I'm going to relate this right back in business and whatever people are selling. But the reality is you're going to have people that are, you know, real hustlers. They seem to be making a lot of money. You know, perception says they're doing incredibly well, but they're incredibly transactional and their businesses run very chaotically. And so when you look at that and you think, I want to emulate that. Well, again, you don't see what happens when they close the door. You don't see how the business is really running. The reality is if you paid just a little bit more attention, you could probably figure out how to take that person down.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I look at it like from a prospect perspective, and I'll use this, you know, you're out there, you're trying to build business with strangers. And, you know, I call it, you know, infiltration, right? Like we got to do our recon like they do, you know, when they're at war. Figure out what's the other side doing? What are their weapons? What do they got in front of them? You know, what are they using to win? I'm just going to figure it out and I'm going to come with bigger and badder and I'm going to be more professional about it and I'm going to take them down. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I love the way you said that. So, you know, you had this goal though. I mean, from kinesiology, you know, getting into fighting, then this goal to get into UFC in less than a year. And you got a coach who looks at you and goes, man, people don't do that. So, you know, we talk about all this, right? It's that whole thing of getting into fighting. Dude, you know, it's one thing to wrestle in the local school gym. It's another thing to go, I'll go to the UFC. And I give you massive credit for that, man. I'm not trying to take anything away. I think that's amazing. It's impressive. But what was the idea there? Because you were told by somebody who should be able to know, should be able to guide, who says to you, nobody pulls it off. So, you know, what led you to want to fight in the UFC? I mean, you got the biggest and the baddest there, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Man, you know, I like dreaming big. You know, I like dreaming big. And when people, it's interesting because you're going to get some people who say like, oh yeah, you can definitely do that. And they might even think you're crazy. And you get some people who are like, there's no way that's happening. And again, it comes down to if knowledge was power. All I said was, I'm doing everything in my power to make this a reality. It might not become the reality that I want. It doesn't matter because I know one thing, I'm going to grow through the process. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew I was going to grow through it. And I knew that if I had that set in my intention, I would be closer than if I didn't.
I like that. You see? And that's again, you know, I'm going to keep trying to take this into a business context, which is what I know you do a lot of focus on now. We're going to get into that. Much the same though. We've heard many times about, you know, this term BHAG, right? BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. And it's, you know, I've said to many people often, you know, goals are not necessarily meant to be hit. And people go, huh? How does that make sense? I'm like, goals are meant to drive you, right? Yeah. Goals are meant to scare the shit out of you. Goals are meant to take you to that next level of you. Yeah. That's what the goal is for. And if you set it and you set that bar higher, this like this year from last year, and you get somewhere in between that, you're already winning.
Yeah.
Right. Now it's how much further can you push it? People, foot on the gas, I'm going to say pull the throttle, whatever. How far can you go with that? Right. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, having that goal then, Cliff, and we talk about the importance of goal setting, and most people shrug it off. And admittedly, and I don't know about you, but I know I used to do that. Mm-hmm. Like goal setting. Come on. I want to be a bajillionaire and I want to take over the world. Is that so much to ask? People would look at that, right? And people would look at me like, okay. And you're like, did I really just say that out loud? I don't even know how we would achieve that.
Yeah.
But when you do really, take that and confine it and kind of go, well, what does that really mean? Right? Because it's funny to say it, but what does it really mean?
Yeah.
For me, it's that, there was a big mindset shift that had to happen. And again, for most people can't figure out what they ultimately want, or they just don't put in the effort. So I guess to that then, as you've talked about it, and as I bring that up, how important is it to set that goal, and what do you do to actually achieve that? Like, and even curious, right? Did you ever set a goal with, kinesiology? Or did the goal setting stuff come, once you started fighting or wanted to be a fighter?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. So I was very insightful as a young kid. I will say that much. Saying that everyone can have insight at any given, whenever they're ready or whenever the right teacher, guide, or coach comes along. Everybody's capable of it. I bring this up because a lot of people, even when I talked with another coach and I told him a part of my story, and he goes, I can't relate to a 5-year-old kid. And that 5-year-old kid, the 5-year-old me, is what drove me to be who I am today. That's very rare for people. I get it. It is. My grandfather, I saw him in his casket, and it scared the shit out of me. And it scared me so much knowing like, holy fuck, I'm going to die. Like I'm going to die one day. I'm going to be in that casket. And going through that, I didn't know I was doing it at the time, but I was literally taking myself through a coaching process, looking at the pros and the cons. I remember thinking to myself, like, I got to live. Like, I just got to live. I got to live as much as I can because I don't know what's going to happen on the other side. I can't honestly pinpoint and say, I'm going to heaven or I'm going to hell, or I don't even know if it's real, That's what I know. That's what I feel. That's what I understand. And so going through that process, I started saying, I'm going to live life as fully as I can. And living life as fully as you can is about going after goals. Sometimes it's that pain point that gets us started. My pain point was 1, the death. But 2, when I saw what I looked like in the mirror, I didn't like it anymore. And I'm like, I'm changing this. And that was the start to this transformational Clifford Starks.
So, okay, you had mentioned to me on a phone call once about having a goal. I think it was a 5-year goal. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong here, to climb Mount Everest, right? And, yes. And so when we talk about goals and oftentimes, and I talk about, as I mentioned, these things a lot because I believe in them. I mean, I think I told you this on the phone too, but I look at my goals every single morning. Like it's, after I finish feeding my brain, doing my learning, my self-development, reading my book, I tap into my goals. Mm-hmm. And the vision board is there by the bed, but then there's the goals that are like the finite, right? The almost the weekly, monthly, daily action items that I need to be taking in order to achieve what I ultimately want. Right. And as we talked about that, you mentioned about Mount Everest. And so, when I talk about them, I always kind of like use this analogy of climbing a mountain, right? You're there at the bottom of Mount Everest and you go, well, how tall is this thing? What's the reality? How many, how far can I climb it every single day? So we kind of go, how many days am I going to be here? I want to get to the top. If I'm going to be here for X amount of days, I got to do X amount of climb basically per day. And if I do that, I should get to the top. It's kind of the analogy that I use in a little bit more detail. But, as we talk about mapping out goals and then we bring up Everest and this analogy of climbing the mountain, right? How do you and how are you actually mapping out now, because you said 5-year goal, which means that's already in your head. You're already locked to this thing, right?
Yeah.
What are some of those steps now? Like if I'm in business and we're talking about this, what are some of those steps you've got to take to get there? And I mean, I got to imagine things like health and mental prep but how do you action that out? What would be that process of breaking that down and going, in 5 years from now, I'm going to be at the top of Mount Everest. What do I got to do today? Because that's how you're going to get there, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what I'll say is there's where you've been, where you're at, where you're going, right? You got to know where you're going in order to get to that thing. And when you know where you're going, you reverse engineer and say, what steps do I need to do today to make that obtainable, to make that my reality? And I'm big into SMART goals, where it's like specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time specific. Because if I said, I'm going to climb Mount Everest one day, well, when is that day going to be?
Right.
Right. And so you got to get very, very specific. It's the same thing. It's the same thing that I did when I was a fighter. It's the same thing I'm learning to do. And I say I'm learning to do in business, because when you're putting in the reps, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to find weaknesses. I want to be one of the 1%ers. Yep. I'm always looking to be the 1%er in what I'm doing, because if I'm doing it, then why not? Because most people just give up. And I don't mean that in they're so lazy way. They give up on trying new things. They give up on experimentation. They give up on themselves, essentially. And I almost hate to say that, because I don't want the 1% to be the 1%. And some people are like, well, if it's this finite thing, it really isn't as finite as we make it. Like, the more I think about life, I go, wait a minute, life isn't finite at all. We look at the money, right? And we can look like some people have more money than others, but everything has different value to it. Like, being a podcaster is a value to you. It's not a value to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so when I live life that way and say, okay, what is it that I value and why do I value this thing? Because, okay, I could climb Mount Everest just to climb it. I know it's going to be harder than hell. In fact, even when you talk about it, I got a little bit nervous and sweaty. Just thinking about it, like, oh God, I know I got to climb that thing. It's a terrifying mountain.
Okay, so hold on there. Talk to me about that then, right? Because we talk about challenges. We talk about, anytime you start with something great, there's always going to be challenges, but it does come down to how you deal with what's in front of you. So there it is, man. How are you overcoming that part then? That whole thing of like, oh man, this thing's real. How do you overcome that?
1 inch, 1 inch, 1 fucking inch. Everyone's like, I need a million freaking ways to do 1 fucking inch. That's all you need. No, that's it.
He's on fire.
Just start moving. And that's why when people tell me like, well, I don't understand how a 5-year-old kid won to fight in the UFC, because I started somewhere and I didn't stop. I'll learn the lessons along the way. I'll grow along the way. You can't go to a 5-year-old kid and say, hey, you should be fighting in the UFC. Just let the kid live. Just let him grow. Let him be passionate about life. Let him dream. When a person dreams, they wake up. And when they wake up, they wake the world up.
Some powerful stuff, man. So mindset then, you're training, right? One of the things that's been running through my head is this isn't like, okay, here in business, you got a goal, you train for it, you make your calls, you do your stuff, you know, what we call, you build the mind share. You do that on a repeatable basis. You will get market share. You will get people that want to talk to you. You will get people that want to do business with you. You take that to the next level though, and you go, dude, you're putting yourself through physical, rigorous work. And it's not just that you're training for a triathlon here, right? Where this is Cliff against Cliff. This is Cliff against some badass motherfuckers who are beating the shit out of each other. And I say that very straightforward. There's a lot of physical, which also ties right back to the mental, that can bring you right down. You know, so when we look at that, right, and we say, or I guess maybe the question is like, what kind of things were you doing every day to ensure that no matter what happened, no matter what the result of a particular fight was, no matter that maybe getting injured and having to deal with something like that. What's up, little man?
I'll help you in a second, bro.
How no matter how you felt each day, I mean, you stuck to the plan. How do you keep pushing through that? And like you said, 1 inch. But I mean, this is big. This is physical. This is mental. And you got to basically get up and say, all right, I'm trying this. And look, this is a bigger, wider message to everybody who's tuned in today, right? Because the things that you're going through, if you are not a UFC fighter and you are not getting in the ring with somebody, I'm going to say straight up, you haven't got the same type of trials and tribulations Amazing Cliffs has, because there is that physicality. There is that sense of, hey man, when you're brought down, you are physically, literally brought down. You got to lift yourself back up and say, it's all good. I got this. Yeah. How does someone do that? Because I'm going to argue that, and look, let me, forgive me for 1 second here as I say this, because I know there's people dealing with things in life that are hardships, people that are dealing with emotional things in life that is difficult to get over. And I recognize, and I'm not trying to downplay any of that. I guess where I'm going is, you can speak from both angles of the emotional and the physical, in order to get to that next place, you're going to endure a lot of that to get to where you want to go. Like, this ain't no cakewalk, no matter what goal we're trying to hit, whether it's Mount Everest, whether it's UFC, or it's getting your next deal.
Yeah. We become, and this is how simple it really is. Very, very simple, to the point it's almost asinine. We become what we surround ourselves with. Just in the beginning, when we were talking about the environment, right? What environment are you going to place yourself in? If you're around a bunch of champions, you will not be able to help but to become that. You don't even need to know the strategies, the system. You don't need to know it. Our brains are so powerful. You will become what you surround yourself with. If you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of fit, in shape individuals, best believe you will become that. It is that simple.
Okay. So, and I agree with you, right? It's that thing of, don't be the smartest person in the room kind of thing. If you are, you might be in the wrong room. When you do look around, you are the byproduct of the 4 or 5 closest people that you hang out with, as you've really just said there. So let me ask you that then. I mean, here you are, and I'll keep using the UFC analogy, and I want everybody to keep, kind of putting yourselves in the shoes of not maybe a UFC fighter, but you as a business person, and say, okay, I heard it before. I've heard it again just now. So what steps would I take to put myself in the right room? And let me preface that by saying, for you not being in the UFC, aspiring to be in the UFC, you got to find those people that are either, bona fide UFC fighters already, or the people that are kicking ass at that next level just before it, and go, I got to kind of integrate myself with these people. Right.
Yeah.
So it's
absolutely
where would, again, our audience that's tuned in, where would our audience go? Where would people go? What kind of steps can they take now to go, I think I got to find a different group of people that I'm hanging with? How would they do that? What would you suggest on that front?
So everything, it's a powerful question. I say everything starts with self-acceptance. The reason I say it starts with self-acceptance is because you want to have the awareness to look within. And if you can't accept certain things, it's hard to look at it. If you're not accepting it, all I'm saying could sound like gibberish. And they'd be like, well, he doesn't understand my life. He doesn't understand the problems. He doesn't understand my chaos. And so my acceptance is, look, you're a badass. All of you. Everyone's got a badass in them. Everyone's got a genius in them. Everybody's got it. But they also got that stupid person in them. They got that lazy person in them. They got the jackass in them. And when you can accept that you have those things, I have them. I have both.
We all do.
Yeah. And I can say, okay, well, now that I know that this is a reality, now I can look at it. And when I can look at it, I become aware. And the more aware I get about it, the more I can say, am I taking the right steps to move me forward? I said, I want to be a millionaire, but I'm not speaking with other millionaires. I'm not reading books on being a millionaire. I'm not doing the things that I need to do. And this stems all the way back to me as a personal trainer. What I preach is mastery, is going all in on your journey. And so if a person thinks that they can see a trainer for 3 hours a week and transform their body because they were working with the trainer and went back to their regular life after, they're mistaken. Mastery is about showing up for yourself daily, truly showing up for yourself, truly saying like, okay, why am I doing this? Like, I know why I'm going up Mount Everest. That's a hell of a challenge. I want to have a story to say like, yeah, Cliff fucking went up Mount Everest. Like he had one goal where he just didn't want to be a fat kid anymore. And then he just kept going because all I know is, one, it feels good to accomplish a goal. It feels amazing.
Yeah.
And then two, it kind of takes everyone's excuses away. Just to be like, oh crap, he said he was going to do that and he did that and he did that. What's my excuse?
I got to tell you, man, that's got to be one of my driving forces personally. And I say that very openly to everybody. It's that thing of going, I know where I want to go. I'm going, not only we're there. And I think there's times in life too, where you go, we have that line, remember back in the day, yeah. You're like, yeah, man, good old days. You got to take a moment to recognize that you may just very well be in the day right now. So before you start talking about the warship back in the day, enjoy the day. Put your all into the day. Now, I'm going to ask you this too then. So as we talk about, the breakdown of the goal, and I mentioned personally, I'm looking at my stuff every day, and it seems very much exactly what you got to achieve in a day. We talk about that reward, right? Because again, habit, trigger, action, reward. Yeah. What is the win? Yeah, the win was UFC. Yeah, the win will be Mount Everest, right? But there's got to be that daily win, right? And so moment by moment, right? And we look at it and say, we've all got these different people inside of us. What are you doing each day in those little moments? Because it's the little ones that paint the big picture, right? Mm-hmm. What are you doing each day to deal with the shit that comes your way? Where you go, I know that right now is in place right now, whether it be from somebody or from a higher power, whatever it is. I know that came to me right now because it's trying to throw me off. Yeah. And that's the moment where many people get discouraged. Like, damn, like for me, right? I want the 6-pack. You just said I got to do more than 3 hours a week. Hell, I ain't doing it even like 5 minutes a week. Damn, I'm discouraged, right? Yeah. How do you write that ship right there to go, look, no, here's what to do though. But I guess the real question here is about the rewards. Are you looking for the tiny little rewards in your day each day? And how do you get past the shit that comes at your way? It's
interesting. Everyone's in different places and different spaces. So at one time I needed the reward. When I looked at myself and I was the overweight kid, the reward was being in shape and feeling in shape. The reward of getting to the UFC in the time that I got in it was me accomplishing something that I set out to do that my own coach thought wasn't going to happen. That was the reward. My reward now, as I go through my journey, is not only for me, but for others. It's different. It's a different reward now because I feel great accomplishing. But holy fuck, does it feel good to not only accomplish, but help others along the journey accomplish too. Like that's a great feeling.
Yeah, man. I gotta tell you, that's gotta be the most fulfilling feeling out there. Personally. Yeah. I practice a lot of gratitude. And one of the things that I definitely am grateful for each day amongst the many, is the success that my clients are having. Yeah. And it's real, man, because what are we doing every day? We're out there and we are genuinely, and I say Mindshare 101 as a business, our team, our goal every day is to help other people. Yeah. And I believe it, and I believe it because I live it now, that when you do enough of that, and you can't do it to do it, you can't do it to receive it, but when you do enough of it, it's amazing how things do start to, also help you. Right. Yeah. And so the biggest power we have is go help others. Yeah. Right. Now, competitive edge. How did you, how did you figure that out for yourself? What that thing that that, Clifford Starks brought to the table, brought to the cage, brought to business? How do you figure out that thing, what it was for you? And how can anybody listening dig deep into themselves to determine that for them?
So everybody wants a perfect plan, right? Where it's just written out perfectly and nice, and here it is, and go do this, and everything will be good. But what I will say is this: know what you want, and then know what you really want. Because we know what we want, but what do we really want? Like, what's the want behind the want? And then go get that. Because when you do that enough times, you end up seeing how the world works. You figure out the world, and you have to figure out in your own way. I talk about being kind and loving other people. And sometimes the best way to get people to that is to ask them the right questions. Sometimes if it's not about loving other people, maybe they don't love themselves properly. Mm-hmm. But when a person's empowered and those disempowering beliefs are gone, wow. Wow. That's all I can say. And I've had the opportunity to help a lot of people along the way. And in some ways, I didn't even know what my gifts were. I didn't know what they were. But you'll learn them. You ask enough questions, right? And you listen enough. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen closely. Listen to everybody. See why they're saying what they're saying. I do my best not to personalize or judge other people, just to say it's an opportunity for me. It's an opportunity for me to learn. And I call myself the curious expert. I'm an expert in being me. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm an expert in. Just as each individual is an expert in being them. And if they want something different, right, they have to first admit that and say, I don't want this anymore. I want something different. I don't want this pain point anymore. I want this to be gone. I help them with that process, right? I help them with that process. I help them become more aware and self-realization, really realizing how capable they are, how those small steps make the big difference, how what we think about, how what we feel about, how what we act on is going to either pay dividends and help us thrive or completely crash us down and make us survive. And so I want people thriving. And if they can just believe that thriving is possible, start with believing that thriving is possible. That's for my people who are beaten down. Now, for my people who are crushing it, for my people who have hit a plateau, for my people who feel stuck and know how to do great, great things, step back for a second, right? And look at the bigger picture. Because sometimes we're so deep into the forest that we can't see the bigger picture. So we can step back and say, okay, where can I make adjustments? And who do I need to adjust, whether that's themselves or the people that they surround themselves with, to get to that next stage? Because there's always an answer. It's always there.
I like that. And one of the things that you had just said there around, everything you just shared, you'd mentioned about, other people and, focus on you. And I find that, and we talk about positivity and the vibes and, when you're a negative mindset, you're going to attract negativity. When you are a positive mindset, you should attract positivity, and you will certainly spread the positivity. And, one of the things here, and we see this a lot, especially in our industry right now, we see this worldwide right now because of the things that are, these outside factors that are going on, where, other people, people are focused on other people more than they should be, and the message that is focused on you, right? Because if you're going to sit there and talk poorly about somebody, how can you expect or assume or even imagine that nobody else is talking poorly about you? Right.
No.
you're going to receive what you put out is going to come back to you. Again, help others and you will be helped. Speak poorly about others and people will speak poorly about you. Be a negative individual and negativity will follow you. And that competitive edge you will not find because you're always focused on the wrong things. And so I really love what you shared there. Now, you teach about the power of 6, right? Mm-hmm. And without giving away all this teaching right now, right? Can we maybe highlight the 6 or maybe talk about why they're important for each of us to implement? What will they help us with?
Absolutely.
Shed some light on that, around that.
Yeah. So as I've gone through my power of 6, it's really 6 principles and fundamentals that if you practice these enough, you internalize them. And I go back into mastery, speaking on mastery. But the first principle is a 3-piece, and it's called the 3 C's. And that's clarity, confidence, and commitment. Be clear in what you're looking for. Confidence is not competence. Confidence just means believing in yourself, believing that it's possible. And commitment, just like signing a contract, sign the contract to your life. Know what you want on your journey. Then it's an effective plan. And just like I said, I can't just give you a blueprint or a plan and say, this is the perfect formula to get you to where you need to go. But I can give you something that you can measure. And as you're taking measurements with your process, you're going to learn. You're going to learn very quickly. One of my mentors say, if it's not measured, it's not managed. Mm-hmm. And so that's what an effective plan does. It helps you measure and manage what you're looking to get in your journey so that you can make it a reality. The third is passionate action. And there's different anchoring techniques and empowering, building empowering and destroying disempowering beliefs that really help with that passionate action, getting people to move forward on their journey. And the fourth one, I actually didn't realize how powerful the fourth one was. This is where people tend to get stuck, is unshakable faith. And having that gratitude and that ability to say, like, I'm doing this when my mind's telling me not to do this thing. Like, the mind keeps telling me not to do it because your mind's used to being where it's at. An unshakable faith is going to a place that your mind might not see. Right,
strongest muscle we have right there, right? The mind, right?
Yeah, by far. Like the thing will make us or break us, and I want it's got to be controlled just like anything else. Since it is the strongest muscle, if you don't know how to control that muscle, it can be very, very dangerous very, very quickly.
Yeah.
The fifth principle is taking extreme responsibility. Asking yourself, what can I control? What can't I control? And know the difference between the two. And also going into a state of knowing not only the steps, but the order of the steps. Because even though you're going through a process, there is steps that need to be taken and an order that they need to be taken in. Like if I wanted to fight in the UFC, I wouldn't start swimming because it wouldn't make much sense to do that. Like I need to learn certain techniques for fighting.
Yeah.
And the same is true in anything that we do, any platform that we get on and pursue. And the sixth is greatness within. And greatness within, I actually make the whole thing as a circle. And this is why. Because if you can get number 1 right, you have a chance at number 6. They go hand in hand. If you just start with clarity, confidence, and commitment, the other pieces are going to fall into place eventually. You clearly want them to fall into place faster. Like that's the goal. And that's why mentorship and coaching and having a process is important. But if you have those 3 things, you'd be surprised what you can do.
Very cool. So you fought in the UFC along with a few other leagues. Did you have a winning record?
Yes.
Yeah. With this one, I love it. Okay, so tell me this. Regardless, though, it's a fight. It's a fight. There's got to be recovery after a fight. So I imagine some of these fights, probably the next day you woke up, it was some painful days afterwards. Would that be right?
Oh yeah.
Right. Just physically, right?
Yeah.
But mindset in those moments, and I sort of brought that up earlier. I don't know. I didn't ask it this way though. Did you ever want to give up? Because I mean, again, like This ain't trying to read a book and just not making it through the pages, right?
Yeah.
This is in, this is again, the physical, mental. Did you ever want to give up? And how did you push through that?
So I want to tell you, I know you're a strong mindset, and I don't know your audience, but I'm sure either they're a strong mindset or they're attaining to get that strong
Absolutely.
mindset. So I will say this. No, but that was from the processes before then.
Okay, fair enough. I like that.
There were times I've wanted to give up in life.
Yep.
I had gone through the process so many times that I know how the process plays out, and knowing how the process plays out, like, I'm effing doing this. But I will say this, I learned this, and I didn't even know I was doing it. So one of the guys that I work with, he's just night and day from when he first started. And I didn't know he was watching me. Like, I didn't know he was watching me and emulating me. And that's where I go like, oh my God, it's the environment. Like, the more I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, it's the environment. Because people want to say like, I want to make it in the UFC in less than a year. And there's just this easy road. The heavens opened up and I just walked through. Like, that didn't happen even a little bit. I had injuries. I had cracked ribs. I had hurt my Achilles tendon. I had messed my knee up. I had a lot of injuries going through that process. And I kept coming in and I would say like, okay, well, I'm injured here, but I can do this. Okay, but I can do this over here. Okay, well, I can do this. And me being that way, it showed up on him. He started being that way. And he's like, yeah, no excuses. And it gives me goosebumps even saying that, because I'm like, wow, I didn't know anyone was watching. I thought this was just my story. It's our story.
and the cool thing is, it's amazing how, as you're working to empower yourself and you're going through all these obstacles and the mental mindset and everything else, you learn that somebody else is actually following in your footsteps specifically because of what you're doing. Yeah. Isn't it wild how that actually empowers this to be even stronger and more resilient? It's like, now I can't waver. Now I got to be me. And in fact, I got to step up further and I got to do more because this guy is looking for more from me, or this gal or whoever.
Yeah, David, you're so right. And it's shocking to me. Like, I become better, not because of me. Yeah. I become better because of us. That's really what it is. And when I started my journey, when I really did want to lose that weight, I wanted to lose that weight for me. It's for me. Didn't want to be fat anymore.
Yeah.
And then it grew and it grew and it grew. And I'm like, holy crap, people are watching me. Like, it's not just for me. And so when you say, when you mention a goal and you go, what keeps you going on for the goal? Well, it's not even just about me anymore. Yeah. It's about everybody else listening to me and watching me.
Powerful, right?
Yeah. Now like, well, now I gotta do it.
I got no choice. What did I get myself into over here? So are you still fighting, and if not, why'd you stop?
Yeah. So I completely stopped. I didn't completely stop. The competitor's still in me, and I actually did a jiu-jitsu tournament last weekend. So I'm in the fight. This is hilarious. And all I'm thinking about, like, I want to get hurt. I want to get hurt. I don't want to get hurt.
Oh, I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, I don't want to get hurt. So I had my son. It was my first son. And all I could think about was, I need to take care of my son. Yeah. I don't want to get hurt right now. And it was just it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Like that. The competitive edge, it's interesting because it's still there, but it's if something's happening to my family. Not being inside of a cage, signing this agreement and saying like, wait a minute, we're just doing this for fun? Yeah. I'm a family man now.
Wild, eh?
And I'm out.
Wow. It makes sense though, man. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, as you were doing it though, we know you had a coach. Mm-hmm. Did you have a coach the whole way through your professional fighting career? And if yes, you were now a professional. Why did you still need a coach? You know why I'm asking that?
So I love this because I'm a jackass, right? I am. I so am. Like, I make mistakes. That's just what I do.
Now, warning for everybody. You cannot call him that.
Yeah. So this is what happened. So all throughout my professional career, absolutely. Because it would make sense any other way. Yeah. Like, you need a coach to move forward on your journey. You absolutely need a coach to move forward on your journey because they can see things that you can't see and adapt for you in ways that you can adapt. I call myself a jackass because when I made my transition from fighting to entrepreneurship, I didn't have a coach at the beginning. I'm like, I got this. What? And I'm like, damn. So I ended up getting a bunch of coaches through the process and learning along this journey as well.
Yeah, that's cool. So do you still have a coach now?
I do. Same. What was interesting, so this is for everybody going through their journey too. One of my coaches, like, she was running down everything that she could bring to the table. And I knew, like, I'm like, there's no way I can afford all of the things that she's saying she's going to bring to the table.
Right.
And I told her, I'm like, look, I am loving what you're providing. I'm loving the value that you're going to be giving, but I want to be completely straightforward with you. I don't think I can afford this before you even finish the pitch. And she goes, oh yeah, I'll just finish and then we'll see what we can do from there. And so she ended up finishing it. And of course I couldn't afford it. And she had said, well, actually, I need a personal trainer. Would you like to do a trade? And I'm like, well, absolutely. I would like to do a trade. And so I look at the world as it's a world of resources. If you're resourceful enough and you just believe enough in your process, you'll get to where you need to go. Money is not the end all be all, not even by a long shot. And that's what gets a lot of entrepreneurs in trouble. Like, they're chasing it, thinking like, when I get all of this money, like, it's just value add. That's all money is. It's, I believe this is worth this, and that therefore I'm going to exchange this for that.
So we still got a coach. Now you're coaching others, right? Mm-hmm. What was that whole thing of like, I'm going to start coaching other people? And I mean, we talked a lot about mindset. And I would say that's, at least from what I'm gathering here, that's what you're coaching others with. But if you had to sum that up, I mean, I guess the first question is, why'd you get into coaching people?
Mm-hmm. So I've always been a coach. It's just getting very specific on the type of coach. Right. Because every coach they have different expertise. Just as I've had fighting coaches, wrestling coaches, track and field coaches. So my expertise is specifically on the mind, the body, and the business. So it's a very holistic approach because each piece needs one another. It needs that solid foundation. And with the solid foundation, it's really, okay, know what you want, know what you don't want, and know how to make that a reality. Like, that's all that is. And so when you can really deep dive with an individual and really ask them those personal questions, because it's hard to tell someone your dream. It is. Because the second you tell them, it feels more real. Mm-hmm. It feels more real the second you actually bring it up. But it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And they need to have the right person and the right leadership on their process to open up and really open that dream up completely. Because you're bringing up giving to life. And I go, life will give you what you give it. So if you give life 100%, it actually gives you 10,000%. If you give life 50%, it's going to give you 0%. Right? That's the way the game plays. So it's not even of equal value. And that's why it's important to give life 100.
You just made me think about something here. Talk to me about fear for a second, because, and I say that because it's difficult to tell other people your dreams because they become reality all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. Much the same, again, just very specific to this situation. I can't imagine the first time you decide to step in the cage. I can imagine there's a ton of energy and excitement and like, let's go. But I got to believe there was some sort of sense of fear, maybe that was sitting there in the back of the mind, possibly of like, oh my God, I'm about to do this. What could happen? Talk to me about fear for 1 second here in terms of, the importance of, I guess, getting over fear and what happens when you do, and maybe even how you do it, if that makes sense there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, fear only has power if we really allow it to have power. And it's not to say bad things can't happen. And it's not to say that your fear isn't warranted. It could very much be warranted. But if we make it bigger than it is, we're definitely going to lose. Like we can't win that game. And so what I will bring up is I'm going back to the inch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back to the inch because I say, okay, well, if you can just do an inch in the right direction, right? And maybe your direction isn't as right as you thought it was. At least you know. So you've learned something, and it's adjust, recalibrate. Eventually, it's important to jump into the deep end. And you can't jump into the deep end when you're ready because you're never ready. Like you never are, like to be completely honest. But you learn so much through that process. My deep end really was when my grandfather passed away. You know, I got forced into something I didn't know that I was going to get forced into. My parents didn't even know that was something I was thinking about. You know, they're like, you were 5 when that happened. Like, yeah, I really remember it.
Wow.
And my mom was just like, wow, I have no idea. You know, eventually you're going to go into your deep end. But when you do go into your deep end, you realize how much power you can really have if you allow yourself to have it.
There it is right there. There it is right there. That's the thing about fear that we've learned in life. The minute you conquer it, you actually realize you're doing amazing things.
Yeah.
Right. And how much easier it is to get past that the next time. So,
Mm-hmm.
Cliff, how do you know it's been a successful day for you?
Man, if I'm feeling good and the people in my life are feeling good, life's good. Life's in a good place. That's what it comes down to, is knowing I stand by core values, and my core values are integrity, transparency, courage, empathy, and wisdom. And as long as I'm sticking by those 5 things, life's going well. If I'm out of alignment in any of those things, I'm going to have to gut check myself and make sure that doesn't happen again.
It's amazing. We're 10 out of 10 or 150 for 150 here. Nobody yet who has achieved some level of success in life, business, career has yet to use the word money when I ask about success. The same way you said a few minutes ago, money is just you know, however you worded it, but it's kind of like it's this byproduct, it's this result, maybe this reward, maybe, but it's not the definition.
Yeah.
You know, the definition is what we're doing out there for others every day. The definition is, you know, what we're doing for ourselves every day. Are we getting 1 inch closer? Right.
Yeah.
What last words or tips can you share with everybody who's out there right now, who's tuned in to help themselves get out there, you know, grow their mindset and of course, build their mind share so that they can, ultimately grow themselves and grow their business?
Yeah. So one thing I'll say is everything comes down to the challenge and how you deal with the challenge. And when you can be in a calm state, the challenges become easier and you grow through it instead of go through it. You know, going through it is like, oh, this is painful. This sucks. Growing through it is you're stretching and expanding and becoming more. And I'm going to give a technique. It's called box breathing. And this is something that Navy SEALs do when they're getting ready to go into stressful situations. It's great for fighting. Trust me, from personal experience. But it just really calms your nervous system down. And what you do is you do a 4-breath inhale. You do a 4-breath hold the inhale. You do a 4-breath exhale. And then you do a 4-breath, and I'm saying 4-breath meaning 4 seconds, a 4-breath hold on your exhale. And you do that 6 to 8 times. And you feel euphoric. You feel ready to take on the day. And you feel like acting towards fear, being able to act towards fear. And we know what we need to do. I mean, straight up, we have an idea of what we need to do. It's just the doing it part.
This is awesome, brother. This is awesome, man. So much learning going on, packed into such a small period of time over here. Cliff, where can people find you if they want to go? They want to learn more about your story. They want to learn more about what you're offering and how you can help them. I mean, just where can we drive people to go and find out more about Clifford Starks?
Yeah, so I'm actually looking to bring people into my Facebook group, and currently it's called Awaken the Greatness Within. I'm probably going to rebrand the name, but I'm really excited because it's about that mind, that body, and that business. And I've been connecting with so many entrepreneurs on the journey and learning so much along the way. Because as a coach is always looking to up their game too, and I have some power players that I've teamed up with. And just like you said, we have a goal, right? And we say we're going to go after the goal. And I made a big one. I want to influence 1 billion people.
Yeah.
And that's a big, big goal.
Oh yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, how am I gonna? Because I was like, I'm doing this by myself. And then I realized, wait, I don't have to do this by myself. I can do this with a team. And that's what that Facebook group's going to be about. So if you're looking to join a community, if you're looking to know a little bit more about me, because as I go on my business journey, I realize, wow, it's hard. It's hard for people to trust people nowadays. And I get it. I get it. They've gone through everybody saying everything. The cool thing is you can Google me, which is pretty nice.
For sure.
So you can be like, oh, wow, he really did do all of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, come join our Facebook community. Come be a part. Come have fun. If you're looking for a community, if you're looking to raise up, and if you want to ask me any questions, shoot me a messenger. I'm more than happy to help you on your way, help you on your journey, and provide some value to you.
They still call you Big Cat?
Some do.
All right. Well, cool, man. Cliff, thank you, man. This has been a powerful time together today. Just talking about, again, training with the UFC fighter to grow business. It's, not an opportunity that people get every day. So I'm grateful for everybody that tuned in and for the time you took to join us today. We'll get this. This is going to be, syndicated everywhere coming up in the next couple of days. We'll make sure you get a copy of that. And nice. Thank you again for all your time and your insights today, man. Looking forward to, all the work that's ahead together,
Yeah. And I want to thank you. Absolutely amazing questions,
thank you.
And great interview. It was an absolute pleasure to be on. Thank you for your time.
Grateful, man. Thank you. You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call, learn more about what you're looking to achieve and how I will help you do just that. Also, don't forget that our Push to 100 is on, so be sure to please go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, rate us, and leave a review. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. I want to once again thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Make sure you connect with the Buzz Conference by visiting their website, www.thebuzzconference.com, and by following them on Instagram at the Buzz Conference to keep tabs on all the awesome events they are always hosting, along with getting the latest copy of the Buzz Digital Magazine. I also want to thank Kids Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked us out yet, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.